Great. So it looks like we are live on Facebook now. I'm very happy to be talking with Jackie Baldwin about her newly released book, The Bend in the River. Oh, it's so good to be here with you today, Jackie.
Liz, I am beyond excited. I can't even describe how I feel. This has been such a long 4-year journey, and I am so grateful that you've been along on this roller coaster of an emotional ride with me and to support me the whole way. So thank you.
Oh, it's been such a privilege. And I know we've known each other through these years, and on both sides, it's been a lot of healing, a lot of personal growth, a lot of work on both sides. And I feel like you've done helped me through healing work too. So I love being able to be with you and sharing about your book and your story. And we first worked together book wise. You were an author in The Great Pause and also Transformation 2020. I'd love to hear from you what inspired you to take this further and to bring your stories into a book of your own, The Bend in the River. What inspired this?
Well, oddly enough, during COVID, when you had put out the call for authors for The Great Pause, I was like, this is my opportunity to kind of tap back into that writing piece of myself. So when I went to college, I actually went to college to write for television.
Mm.
And then I became a financial advisor, go figure.
Makes perfect sense.
But if we fast forward, all of that was for a purpose. And so participating in The Great Pause and the Transformation 2020 really sparked, because both of those pieces, especially the Transformation 2020, really sparked this feeling that I wanted to share my personal growth journey and healing journey in a deeper way, much more so than just one chapter could ever, portray and share. And so I started writing it back then during COVID. And I didn't think about, part of it was actually started with my journaling. And I took the journaling and just started extending it into a book. And then I had been doing the kayaking on the Connecticut River. And it really just fell into place. The challenges that I had on the river and had to overcome, really, when you're paddling for 15, 16 hours a day by yourself with your dogs, you have a lot of time for introspection, like to look inward and to really think about, what does this mean? And that's when all of it just started flooding, not literally into the boat, but
well, maybe a little bit.
Maybe just a little bit. You have to read the book to find out about that. But definitely it just started coming together full circle. And I really could just envision how my experiences on the river really fed into my healing journey. And especially, the title of the book, The Bend in the River, is so apropos, because when I would go around any bend in the Connecticut River, sometimes I would go from beautiful water, such as what's on the cover of the book, and turn the bend, and it was total mayhem. And then, other times I would be like, oh my gosh, is this going to last forever? And I'd go around another bend and I would return to flat, beautiful water. So I started realizing, isn't that how our lives are, right? We never know what's around that next bend in our life. And if it's how we navigate through those different waters, if you will, that really help us to even out our lives and really view things vastly different than perhaps this is bad, that's good. I feel like there's a lot of good even within the bad, and it helps us appreciate the good. So it's kind of how I started this whole chapter, this whole book, and it just kind of flowed from there.
And you're doing this really cool thing that I'd like to talk about, where you're segment paddling the Connecticut River from the source to the sea, which I think it's over 400 miles, right?
410 miles.
Oh my goodness.
I oddly, while it is source to sea, I'm actually almost doing it backwards from sea to source.
Don't
because,
tell. No.
because Connecticut leads
Right.
out to the sea. And
Right.
so I've really started with Connecticut and I'm working my way north doing the segments, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've done such a cool thing with the book where you've woven in so much neat things where you're talking about the things that you've experienced on the river, things
Mhm.
that you've learned from those experiences, and also reflecting back on things in your life and like how you've grown throughout your life and how your childhood is impacting your life now. And I
Yes.
know you do talk about some traumatic events that have happened to you. Um, what has provided healing for you from those traumatic events and those experiences? What would be helpful for you to tell people about that has been healing in those areas?
I mean, first and foremost, I will have to say it's my faith.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That is such it is who I am. You know,
mm-hmm,
I am a child of God. And
mm-hmm,
so knowing that has helped me then have the courage to face and go back to those very traumatic events.
mm-hmm,
Realizing that the shame that I carried with me all these years uh,
mm-hmm,
is not how God sees me and has never been how he sees me.
mm-hmm,
And I needed to heal from that so that I saw myself as worthy and not full of shame.
mm-hmm,
And then there's been a number of other things that have happened throughout my life that have kind of stemmed from that early childhood trauma. Uh,
mm-hmm,
and I guess I want to just share with people that there is hope. That's the whole purpose of me sharing this book. It has nothing to do with me and everything to do with giving hope and inspiration and encouragement to others,
mm-hmm,
because I know my story is not unique. I know
mm-hmm,
my story is unfortunately shared by many. And I am here to tell you that I am the happiest, most joy-filled person that I could ever imagine being. I'm at total peace, and I want that for others. And so therefore, it's taken a lot of work. It's not just I woke up one day and said, "Oh, I'm a child of God and I'm all better." No, that is not,
right.
that's a great
Yeah.
place to start from. But I had so much work to do through um, family and friends support, through therapy, through
Mm-hmm,
EMDR therapy. You know, I can't express enough through coaching, life
mm-hmm,
coaching. I've really tapped into all those professionals in my life that really helped me get through and um, discover who I am
mm-hmm,
without
mm-hmm,
shedding all of the
mm-hmm,
stuff that happened, because that is who I
mm-hmm,
am. And
mm-hmm,
that's the cool part about it. I now carry those things with me, but not the trauma. I
mm-hmm,
carry the victory. I carry the strength that that brought me. I carry the um, imagination that I needed to survive at that time. I carry that with me to who I am today. I carry all of that empathy that I had to learn to give to myself. And I share that with my clients and my
mm-hmm,
friends. And so I
mm-hmm,
don't regret one thing that has ever happened to me. It all happened for a purpose, and it's
mm-hmm,
all being used for good, every ounce of it.
mm-hmm,
And that is what I want to encourage anyone who's picking up this book, that my gift to you is that you will find inspiration to do the work for yourself, that you are worthy, that you are beautiful, no matter what you might think of yourself at that moment. You are beautiful, and that you can have joy and peace in your life. It is not, you don't have to stay in that place of trauma at all. And I don't want to make it sound like it's easy, but it is so worth every ounce of work that you're going to do. And
mm-hmm,
then you, in turn, will get to rip. I always consider my life and other things that happen ripples that go out and extend far beyond what I will ever know and will ever realize. And I
mm-hmm,
want everyone, whatever ripple I send, then they're going to continue with a ripple going forward from them. And isn't that just a beautiful
mm-hmm.
concept to think about? that this is just one ripple, and it could go and extend far beyond anything I could ever imagine.
And you give such helpful information here, because I think something that happens when people are working on healing or recovering from some traumatic event or experiences or life, that they try one thing to make it better, or they think one thing will fix it.
Right.
And they get very frustrated and sometimes give up because they tried the one thing and it didn't work. And then they think it's not going to work. And what you have found is it's not a one thing.
Right.
It is working on all these different aspects and different, right? You're weaving together. Okay. So I am doing the spiritual work, right? You're doing the spiritual work. You are doing the physical work of going out on the boat, right? You're doing the therapeutic work and taking advantage of different types of modalities to support you. And I know you also have a very strong, family connection and friend network, and all the business connections you have of people that are doing like entrepreneurial work. So they're right.
Absolutely.
So you have this, you've really created this kind of system of like healing support and just a rich life, that can help, a web, like you said. And that's what it can take to really get to a different place. And some people just give up before they realize that or start feeling the experience of that. So that,
and I can honestly, honestly too, I didn't mean to cut you off, Liz, but yes, fine. Absolutely. I have tried healing from various things throughout my life. I went to therapy back in my 20s to try to deal with the childhood trauma and other things that had occurred from that. And then I tried, and I thought, oh, I'm healed. No, I wasn't. And then you layer on top other trauma that happens, my marriage, all of these different things. I'm not trying to say the whole thing was horrible, but there were absolutely things that added layering on of things. And just knowing that I had all those layers that I had to work on. And to your point, I was getting discouraged because I thought, gosh darn it, I already did this work. Why am I right back here again with anxiety attacks, laying down in the middle of Walmart, anxiety attacks, and having people, having to explain, no, really, I'm okay. Don't worry about me. I'm just in a heap on the floor. Okay. Things like that. And it's like, my gosh, in my 50s, I would have liked to have thought that the work I did in my 20s and again in my 40s, all of this would have helped. And to your point, it wasn't until I started really layering on all the different components that it really came together for me. So, yes, that's absolutely true. And I want people to hear that message loud and clear. Don't get discouraged. If one thing didn't work, it isn't even that was a waste of time. But that's only one segment of your healing. There's so many. We are such a multi-level, we're complex beings. So to think that one type of healing process is going to heal all of what's going on in here is probably unrealistic. I thought it was true, but it in fact is not.
And I want to make sure that we talk about this, because we talked about this together before we got on the call, that you had an interesting experience where you were on another journey, right? Yes. A long drive, where you discovered something, that the feeling that you had towards the book and how you were relating to it kind of shifted. And because we do have a lot of authors that listen to the podcast, I'd like to hear you talk about that.
So as any author that makes this decision or is contemplating this decision to put out a very personal story, and you're being vulnerable to the world. And my gosh, Liz, this, I agonized over this, and I had moments where I was like, oh my gosh, like when you're coming up to the edge of a cliff and you're digging your feet in, like, no, I can't do this. I was so incredibly anxious leading up to this moment. And I thought, I fully expected to get here to today where we're launching this book and to be full of anxiety and still feeling like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing? And instead, I am totally at peace. And it's because I had this shift that while I was writing the book, yes, it was very personal and it was me writing this book and putting this out there. Today, it is not about me at all. This book, I have totally surrendered this to the world, and it has nothing to do with me and everything about whoever is going to pick up this book. And that is so freeing. And it is just a beautiful feeling to have, is that I'm detached from it, not from a standpoint of it doesn't matter. I'm detached. I'm releasing it, I guess is a better word. I am just releasing it. And it has nothing to do with me personally any longer. And that is so cool. And I had no idea that that's where I would get. But yes, driving a U-Haul across the country, 1,700 miles, allows you a lot of time, once again, just like being in the boat, to think and to ponder and to have just these revelations hit you. And that was a beautiful revelation that I was not at all expecting. So for anyone who is contemplating doing this, just trust your instinct, go with it, write it, because you have something important to share, and then release it. It isn't about you anymore.
Yeah. And I know I have this feeling a lot with books that and especially this one, that it has a life of its own. It's beyond what we have the plan for or the agenda about, or whatever the goals for, whatever, that it does have a life outside of us, and we don't know who it's going to reach. And I've experienced with publishing books enough times that it reaches people I can't even imagine, and the experiences that we hear back and how it's changed from the readers, like how it's impacted people. It's amazing. And I love that you're feeling that peace too.
Yes.
And I do want to just acknowledge you did put in the work to get to this place where the book could be seen by readers. And it's not easy, especially when you're writing about personal experiences. It is hard work, and you kept getting back up and doing it, right? Like you kept getting back on that horse and to stick with it to get to this point where we could send it out into the world. And that's just such a huge accomplishment and something worth celebrating. And I will, yeah. And
just so that it's clear too, just for people listening to this has been 4 years in the making.
Right.
4 years. Part of which I had printed out a copy and put it in a 3-ring binder, with the intention of editing it. And it was so raw, and I wasn't ready, that every time I would pick it up to try to edit it, I would have to put it away until I was finally really ready to do this. And I guess I also just want to share for anybody that's thinking about doing this, don't get discouraged if you start it and you can't finish it right now. It may take you a few years.
Yes.
Keep at it and explore that more before you just say, oh, I'm not going to do this.
Right. Yes. And so I often am talking with people that they've had to table it because it's just too much. It's especially the nature of the works that the books that we publish is personal stories, and sometimes they just need to be set aside for a little bit, but it doesn't mean it has to be forever, and you can pick it back up at any point when you're in a place where you can do it and put it out there, and it's worth following through on. We have lovely illustrations in this book, so I want to make sure we talk about them. They're absolutely beautiful. Can I show my favorite? I want to find my favorite.
I'm dying to see which one is your favorite.
Well,
it may be the same one as mine.
My favorite is the pterodactyl.
That's mine too. That's mine too.
Oh, so it has Baxter and Lulu, who have been doing all the travels with you, and you do have a story. Well, do you want to tell a little bit about the story of this picture, or do you want it to be?
Sure, I'll tell just a snippet, because you really do need to read the whole thing But I'll also just share a little bit. So Baxter is my yellow lab that I've had since he was a pup. And he has been through this whole crazy healing journey with me. And for anybody who's ever seen a lab or had a lab, they are just the loves, right? He gives the best hugs. So I started this journey with him. And then my friend Carmela passed away, and she had a dog named Lulu. And so I adopted Lulu. And so she's this Havanese that's 20 pounds, as my lab is 85 pounds. So in any event, this one particular paddle that I was on, I got caught out on the water at night. I couldn't see. I was totally disoriented, and I was starting to absolutely panic. And so along the river, the green heron like to, or blue heron, excuse me, the blue heron, they like to live along the river. Great fishing, right? So in the dark, when you're panicking, sounds sound very big. And so I was hearing the flapping of these huge birds as they were coming in to rest for the night. And it sounded to me like a pterodactyl. And so I had to do this. I had to have this illustration done. Kenny Zip is such a dear friend of mine. She's amazingly talented. Tons of different modalities of art. And I couldn't think of anybody better to ask. I was just like, oh my gosh, I want to do illustrations. So I asked Kenny if she would be kind enough to do these illustrations for me. And all I did was I gave her some descriptions about each chapter, kind of what I was thinking, and she surpassed all expectations. And I love that picture of the pterodactyl, because carrying Lulu away, because it was just perfect. But there's so many others in there that are just, they fit so well. And if you really look at I would encourage readers to look at the illustration before you read the chapter, but after you read the chapter, go back and look at it, because you're going to see details that you wouldn't have seen at first blush that tie in with the content of that chapter.
She did such a great job on these
Amazing.
illustrations. I absolutely love them, and they really add to the book. It's just so sweet. And so you also have an Instagram account where people can follow you as you are going on this paddle of the Connecticut River. CT River Pups, is that the name of it? Okay. So if people want to connect with you, that's the best way. They can connect with you on Instagram or send you a message through there.
Yeah, just send me a message. So after reading, if you have some thoughts or you'd like to ask me a little bit more about my journey and the different modalities that I used for healing, feel free to reach out. I want to be an encouragement to others. I'm going to start rapidly posting again. My next journey is set to be 100-mile segment in 5 days. And when I say that we're paddling, it's the dogs and I, and that's it.
Right. And so the ebook now is for free for 5 days. So starting today, so it's July 16th through July 20th, you can go and please download the ebook. And the paperback is also up on Amazon, so you can so people can grab it there. Anything else you'd like to let people know or share with them today?
Gosh, I feel like we've covered so much. I mean, we could talk for hours, but we don't have for hours. So just the final word of if you're reading the book, just read it with an open heart, open mind. There are parts that are very funny, I think, personally, such as the pterodactyl part. So it's not all heavy. It starts really heavy, but just push past chapter 1. And I think that you're going to find a mix of humor, some excitement, and, I'll meet you around the bend in the river.
Oh, it's so nice to talk with you. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thank you. Well, I love you, Liz.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.